Now I want to share the story of a very important bird to me. Now this is Oslo, and Oslo is a Harris hawk. Now unfortunately Oslo passed away in February 2024, but we'll get onto that in a little bit. Now Oslo was my first proper bird that I trained and looked after, getting into the world of falconry and owning birds of prey. Now he was my hunting bird, so I did initially train him and look after him to hunt rabbits and pheasants, and he turned out to be a very, very good bird for this, but it did take him a little bit of a while to get going. Now Oslo we got at 12 weeks old, and it took us about 3 months to get him flying free. When you're learning with a bird, it does take you a little bit longer to get them going and get them ready. Now, one of my biggest regrets is I don't have many photos from back in those days, purely because there was no camera phones and I didn't really take many photos and things like that. So there's not many photos of him, but I will share quite a few photos of Oslo that I do have, which are still very, very precious memories. Now, Oslo, for the first few years, we were basically just flying him as a hobby. We were taking him out hunting and just generally flying him. And the brilliant thing with Harris hawks, you can do what's called following on. They'll literally follow you wherever they go. So that's a fantastic thing to do. Just go out with your hawk and they'll literally follow you on a walk, kind of like a dog would, which is fantastic. Now, we initially hunted with him through the Yorkshire Falconry Club. I was still going to this day, and that was a fantastic experience, very, very social events, and just all round good fun. And also turned out to be a very, very good hunting bird after his first year. His first year, he didn't get the idea. We tried everything to get him going, but eventually, in his second season, after he molted out for the first year, he turned out to be an absolutely stunning little male Harris hawk for hunting. He caught many, many rabbits, even long flighted rabbits, even all the way across valleys. He'd fly all the way over and still chase a rabbit and be able to catch it. He was a fantastic bird. And even he did catch 2 pheasants at once, one in each foot, which I really, really do regret not having a photo of, because no one believes me that he had 1 pheasant in one foot and 1 pheasant in the other foot. But you'll have to take my word for it. His third season ended up in a little bit of a disaster. He ended up chasing a squirrel, which enjoys chasing squirrels. Unfortunately, squirrels are very, very wiggly little creatures, and they have horrible, horrible big long teeth. And that particular squirrel he chased did actually manage to bite him on his leg and cause quite a severe injury, which did swell up quite nastily, because apparently squirrel saliva is not very nice, full of all sorts of bacteria, and as such also had to be on antibiotics and rested for a good 3 months, which coincided with the summer season, so we did manage to get him to molt out. As we go on to 2006, I actually moved to the Yorkshire Dales Falconry Centre, where I did public demonstrations for about 8 months, and during that time I had the opportunity to bring Oslo with me, and this was mine and Oslo's opportunity to do flying demonstrations, and he was fantastic for this. He still took part in hawk walks and also hunting experiences as well, so he was being a very, very good boy even in a new environment. From there I actually took the decision to go to South Wales from 2007 to December 2012, where I bred falcons for the Middle East, and I could not take Oslo with me. However, he did remain with my mum to fly and do everything here, and he was a fantastic bird. He would literally fly to anyone, do anything. He was just an amazing little guy, so he was fantastic for the job here. When I came back on holidays, I did have the opportunity to fly him and even go out catching rabbits with him, and he was just an amazing little boy. So when I came back home at the end of 2012, that's when I started to fly him and work with him again, and he was still, as I say, an amazing little chap. He entertained many, many people during flying displays at places like Cannon Hall Farm and the Royal Armouries, as well as still doing our hawk walks, as well as our hunting experiences. So as I say, if you have had any experience or even met Oslo before, then do let us know in the comments. It's always nice to hear people's stories about him. One of the quirks with Oslo, and to be honest with you, older, mature Harris hawks, they are a very intelligent species. They have that social dynamic where they actually work together. So what Oslo did realise, he could actually come home whenever he wanted, when he was out on an experience or a hunting day, and someone would always pick him up and put him back in his house, which unfortunately meant sometimes his experience days did end up a little bit earlier, but if he didn't want to fly, he didn't have to fly. He'd basically just end up back on his perch anyway. So he was a happy boy to do whichever. And this brings us up until the incident that happened in February of last year. Now, Oslo flew home, which, as I say, quite a common occurrence sometimes. And what we have around our facility is lots and lots of trees. Now, we do also have a power cable that runs over the top of the aviaries and over the top of these trees as well. And since 2019, we had been getting Northern Power to try and trim these trees. They'd always come out within a day or two to assess and then log it down that the job needs doing, but they never came out. Obviously, with 2020 and what happened in 2020, that did disrupt things, but we kept calling them at least every 6 months to tell them to come and trim these trees, and they hadn't. And as such, the trees grew above the power cables. Around the power cables was burnt away, but the trees did grow above the power cables, which meant in some parts that the cables were brushing the trees and meant there was an arc. Now, Oslo came home in 17th of February 2024, and he landed on the lowest part where the cable was and unfortunately got electrocuted. Now, one thing I could be, I suppose, grateful for, rather than suffering with a long-term illness or old age, it was quick. He wouldn't have known anything about it, but I did get a phone call. It was on my day off from Stephen, and he told me that there is smoke coming from the trees and Oslo had flown home. So at this point, obviously I rushed down and could see the problem. And unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do in this situation. So I called the fire brigade, called Northern Power, and we did manage to get the trees trimmed, but unfortunately it was too late. As I say, this is all down to their fault, and we did raise a complaint with them, which was never really fully resolved. They kind of just fobbed us off, which is not great, to be honest, but there's not a lot we can really do about that. Now, we have since paid out of pocket to have all the trees trimmed around our facility as low as we can, and this did cost us an awful sum of money. And literally about 3 weeks after this, some tree surgeons came to trim the trees that we'd already trimmed, which obviously it's too late. So yeah, completely Northern Power's fault, but I thought I'd share the story of what was an absolutely terrific little Harris Hawk who will never be forgotten here at SMJ Falconry.